this special budget work session to order. We'll start with general discussion moving from last Wednesday on the FY26 budget with the Department of Housing and Community Development here, bringing forth our conversation on the potential West Side Community Center. So again, for tonight, if you all wouldn't mind just stating, before you speak, stating your name and title for the record, and then we'll pass it along to you.
Boda, Director of Housing and Community Development.
Rachel Manning, Community Relations Manager in Housing and Community Development.
All right. Thank you, Mr. President. Good evening, Council. So just picking back up the conversation that we had started on Wednesday, and we've provided everything for everybody today so that they had it. We didn't want to present without the full council here, so we'll move through this quickly, and then we have a couple other items that I provided you. We can discuss off those as well. So this is about the West Salisbury Community Center. And looking at the need, one of the issues on that side of town, or on this side of town, is with the library relocating, there's going to be some gaps in some services on this side of town. So we know that West Salisbury has some fewer accessible resources than the rest of the city. We're looking for a safe, welcoming, after-school environment and available, accessible programming, and there is also we get plenty of requests for meeting spaces from the community. So the location that has recently come to us, and it kind of, the way that everything happened, it kind of coincided with the budget on timing, is in the Salisbury Plaza on 320 Cypress Street. This site is almost directly across from the Salisbury Fire Department, and then the police department is on the other end of this shopping center. Just for general public, this is the Save-A-Lot and Roses Shopping Center. This location is a 6,000 square foot location on the end, and then there is, I think, Mayor, I would say probably about an 20,000 square foot field that's there. It's a nice outdoor space with a lot of potential as well. The space inside, the 6,000 square foot space, is it's an empty shell. It is, or as we would say, a green space, and similar for the lot that is there. Quick, with GIS, they ran some quick numbers for us. Within a 10-minute walk radius, there's 516 address points and 227 Board of Education students within the municipal boundaries within a 10-minute walk. Of the schools that serve this area, we're looking at Pinehurst, Pemberton, Glen Avenue, Salisbury Middle, and Parkside. We did with the communications department, we did an initial online survey of the community, and 90% of the respondents believed West Salisbury should have a community center with several other things that people were interested in, including an indoor gym, career development, music performance, art studio, technology, and coding. Last week, we had a neighborhood walk over at Mitchell Pond Apartments, and so we did some with some boards there and surveying the people at the event. 20 people felt that they should have a community center on that side of town, with some other similar activities of a computer lab, job assistance, after-school club, and a lot of them indicated they would be interested in a workout room. Some of the other program activities that were just kind of put on there that they had interest in was adult GED classes, after school, a dance team, college prep, job skills, tutoring. So that's kind of, some of the ones coming directly from the people that live in that community. We have met with the Youth Development Advisory Committee, and some of the members did visit the site. And in the meeting after that, the group as a whole gave their support for the community center. So types of programming and some of this, if you look at the executive summary that was provided, it's, you know, in there, some of the similar programs that we currently do at Newton Community Center, which is the after-school club. That's 4 days a week, and then on Fridays, there's a teen night. Summer lunch program is provided by the Wacomico County Public Schools, and we served probably on average about 25, 30 students a day at Newton through that program. The Community Action Board, which is a partnership with the governor's office, they have regular meetings there. Adult education courses through Warwick are held at Newton. And then we have various partnerships with Salisbury University, including PACE, Philosophy Cafe, English classes, and tutoring. Computer education classes with the University of Maryland Extension. School events with Pinehurst Elementary School. That's where most of those elementary school students go. And then Maryland Food Bank has their Food Works program, and we have a quarterly, they hold a quarterly community dinner, which is the classes graduation project. So then they come to the community center and serve that dinner to the community. So building off that, if we were looking at prospective programs where we would start at the West Salisbury Community Center, again, an after-school club, you would continue that partnership with Warwick and Salisbury University for continuing education classes. We have spoken with Dr. Micah Stauffer from Wacomico County Public Schools concerning what President Dowdy brought up last week. And a lot of what they're looking for is a place where they can regularly meet when they have students that are in suspension or in other situations where they are required to provide 6 hours of tutoring a week. They need a neutral space that is not Board of Education property. So if they're suspended, they can't be at school, they can't go to somewhere else, it has to be a neutral space. They're looking for a place where they occasionally have some testing and some other things that they do, neutral space, online classes and some stuff like that. Which in our conversation with them, you know, we're gonna meet with them probably in another month. He was going to get with his staff and come up with some more specific things. There's some things we might be able to work with them now, but if this came online, this would be something that they would love to partner with us on. Have spoken with the Lower Shore Workforce Alliance. We have a meeting with them in a couple of weeks. They're interested in partnering with us at a prospective West Salisbury Community Center. This is an area that they would like to have some space in. And then, again, if we're looking at just in our rental spaces, we're constantly getting requests for some larger 30-plus people in attendance. The only place that we have to accommodate them now would be Truett, but Truett, there's a lot of bookings at Truett, and it's very competitive. Newton, the largest group we can have downstairs is probably about 20 to 25
at the most.
But there's a lot of need for some of these other organizations that are nonprofits. So there's the need that we see and that we're hearing from people. So some of the other things, you know, other community, like a computer lab, some financial literacy workshop. This space is not. It wouldn't be conducive for indoor sports activities because the ceiling is so low. So we couldn't have a gym or basketball or volleyball. Anything with stuff flying around would not be in the space. But we do have a space that's outside that we could create that would be open to some of that stuff. Now, the next slide, there's a disclaimer. Number one, I'm not an architect. I'm not an engineer. This is going to be a layman's version of a footprint. And art class was not my forte. So this is this is a sample sketch, okay, of an idea where, you know, with bathrooms, a kitchen that initially we're going to set it up to rough it in so that we can ultimately have a health department approved kitchen with a variety of rooms. Our idea for the bigger area is to have a multi-purpose room that we could use dividers. You could have a smaller room, or you could open it up and have a bigger group in there for, a 50 to 75 person event. And then some other dedicated classrooms, whether it's an exercise area or whether that's another room that is dedicated for Warwick or Board of Education. Again, it provides us having a space that's flexible, and that's ultimately the goal. So, to recap some of our potential community partners, we would be looking to partner with the library, Wacomico County Public Schools, Warwick Community College, Salisbury University, Maryland Food Bank, Lower Shore Workforce Alliance, and most all of these we already have some form of existing partnership with. There may be one or two new partnerships. What the owners of the property have offered us is a $1 per year long-term lease, with the most consistent cost being the $1.50 per square foot condo fees, which approximately $9,000 a year. That would be much cheaper than us renting anywhere else. And then also, again, use of that connecting field. Where we are now, so we're currently in the pre-planning and cost estimation phase, which we're working with someone, but it would be this year money, and it's going to cost us less than $10,000 to get some basic cost estimation. The next step would also be looking at a letter of intent and a lease with the owner. But again, these are fairly contingent on the temperature of the council. So, if this is something you would like us to begin looking into and proceeding with, then those first two steps are the next immediate steps that we would do. The next thing we would do is a second, more targeted survey. We would be working with Ryan Weaver and some of his students to actually go out and try to get direct surveys in the community, just to, again, talk to the people who are going to use that community center the most. And another piece would be, we've had conversations with Community Foundation of setting up a non-endowment fund to be able to raise money locally. Some organizations may wish to contribute, sponsor a room, sponsor the kitchen, sponsor the computer lab. That would be stuff that would help us see this across the finish line. Once we were working on some of that stuff, then a little bit further down the road in the fall would probably be where we would initiate the RFQ and RFP process. So that's the presentation in a nutshell. And again, we provided you with an executive summary and some estimated comparison of FY26 to FY27 potential operational costs.
One thing I wanted to clarify, the arrangement with the landlord was really a condominium. We're actually going to survey that end off, and we would own it, and we would pay $1 a square foot for the CAM fees as a percentage of. So that's just a sort of a technical term, but we would own it, and we wouldn't have any future debt service, other than obviously we would put the capital in from the beginning. So.
Well, it's my district, and I think it's a grand ideal. I appreciate the work that you've put in it, Mayor and Rachel. And from hosting that event Thursday, gave us a lot of ideas. Those kids came up with some great ideas. The parents came up with some great ideas. It is a great need, because if I can say, about maybe 7 years ago, we were supposed to get a third community center, and it never came. The kids on the west side of Salisbury need a community center. We talk about crime with our juveniles and our youth. This is a way to keep it from happening. We need to give them something to do. And it always, an item of mine is a devil's workshop. So if kids aren't doing anything and don't have anything to do, or not presented with something to do, it's bad. And even the kids even said, the parents even said parenting classes. helping them be able to parent their kids, because these are young parents having children, and they need that reinforcement. It's much needed. Wouldn't want to see those kids walk to Newton Street, dangerous. I wouldn't want them to see them to walk to the Richard Hazel Youth Center, dangerous. I wouldn't want to see them go to Truett Street, and a lot of those people, they may see vehicles, but a lot of those kids, as a parent who knows, as a parent who has dealt with those children, some of the parents won't take their kids. So, but I do know that those children will get there, but I want them to get to somewhere safe, where it's viable and not, they have to go across the highway. They do. But I wanted to provide transportation for those children as well. But what I want to do now is just get this youth center thriving, get it up and thriving, and it's a grand ideal, and I don't think there is no reason why we cannot do this. I would rather do this than to do anything else in the world, because our kids are not only our future, they're our now. And if we don't start working with our young people, even the young adults, if we don't start working for them, we're looking for failure. And I know it's a need. I was a young parent, single parent, raising kids, and it's not easy. It's not easy. And when I live in this district and I see certain things, I know for sure this community center will be what we need. I did a tutoring before I got sick at the VFW 10159. I had 30 children from the community come consistently, seeing improvement in the children's behaviors in school, parents calling us, telling us, what did y'all do to our kids? And we were like, we just worked with them. They were doing remarkable in school. They were doing remarkable in the community. So this is a need. It's a must. We have places, but nothing beats having a community center where they have all of those entities, a library. That's one of the first things one of those kids said, a library. So that let me know that they read, they research, they say community labs, and adults and adult education. And it wasn't a dance team they wanted. They just wanted to learn the art of music and dance. And art, drawing, painting, whatever. So I'm just hoping that this council finds it in their heart to do the right thing by the children. You're not doing it for the community, you're doing it for the kids.
Thank you, Councilwoman Jackson. And I echo the same thoughts that this is, something, a community center, it's why I say no. There are few negative reasons you can find for a community center. But I do have a couple of questions that if we could answer that, we could just speak to the public. So, who is the current owner, and how did that, idea come into play for it to potentially be either, which I see here, the LOI of leasing the facility, or the, transition to the city owning that? How did that come about? And when would that, what is it contingent upon? So, and my long question is, the $350,000 ask of the city to begin structuring the facility. What is that going to do, and is that contingent upon getting the facility, handed over from the current owner?
Well, I think originally I reached out to them, it was last spring, or early in the spring, about one of the spaces in that, and they had a bad roof on the place. They've since put a brand-new roof across the whole entire building, and then they came back to us and said, this end would be a perfect, which is the end we're considering now. It's owned by the Gillis family, associated partners and that. And then it just seemed to make sense from the perspective of location and proximity to our current police department, fire department, and be a perfect fit for kind of like, from the standpoint of capitalization, we're hoping that, I'm getting this going, hoping to provide a good percentage of it. I think this will get us far down the road, but raise the rest with what we might need, if any, to do the rest. I think there's a lot of capital partners around that would help us in that process, so.
And actually, Joy Gilkerson and Brad Gillis came to me and asked me about the whole parking, the whole mall place, strip mall, and asked me what was in there. And I told them what used to be there. And then the question was posed, well, what would you like to see in there? And I said, a youth center. A youth center, a community center, not actually a youth center, but a community center that would be accessed by everyone, adults, seniors, and youth. A community center, we need that in our community. We don't have many places in our community that we can meet. We don't have that. We don't have a lot of places to have, like you said, you can't do basketball in there, but you can do basketball during the summer and fall and spring outside. But this is a great need for our community. And I'm not just saying it because it'll put some kudos in my corner, but no, this is something that is really desperately needed in our district.
What kind of price, when you say about transitioning from either leasing $1 a year to acquiring the property, what's the price on that?
So the arrangement, the current negotiation is that they will gift us a portion of the building, which is what we'll own, and then the annual cost will be basically a two-member condo. I think will constitute like 8% of the total amount, and we'll pay a percentage of whatever there is common area maintenance to that. And so it's still in flux, but it'll be in reason with it, what we would typically pay anyway.
But what's a number? Like, what number are we looking at?
On an annual basis, I'm thinking 10, 12,000, something
But
like that.
what are we paying for the other part of the building that's not gifted to us?
We're not paying anything for the other. We're getting gifted a portion, and they're keeping the rest.
So they're keeping the
I think
other
because
hand.
it's, you know,
It's
when
condo.
we think about, yeah, it's right, so condoing out, and this is for the whole strip mall, correct, Mayor?
No.
That's, we're getting,
Yeah, you're condoing out your portion of the whole strip
Yeah, it
mall.
helps
Yeah.
cover the
Right.
cost of the shell
So,
of the
like-
building, the
right.
roof, the parking lot, everything that everybody shares in common, that would be our contribution, like
The shared
any other
amenities.
tenant in there.
Right.
without getting into the technicalities of a condo arrangement, but.
Because they're fairly, they can be hairy. That's why I was wondering, why
Well,
that, yeah.
We talked about doing some one-offs, but I think the best way to do it is a condo regime because it'll address everything. But we're sort of in the negotiation. Either way, I think we'll negotiate a good deal for us that'll work.
And then, I guess just speaking to, so I see this comes with, for the FY27 budget, some increase in the HCDD line items here, so some new positions and some increase or some different arrangement there. Can you all speak to that?
Sure.
That there, I think it comes at about $130,000 price tag year over year.
Correct. What we would do, we would really only be creating one true new position, which would be kind of like the full-time person that would work there every day at the community center, which we would call a community center associate. Looking at the other positions, the assistant or the current community relations manager, this would elevate her responsibilities more in line with a assistant director. So it would be reclassifying that position. And the community programs coordinator, that position, which currently manages the programming and the part-time staff at Truett and Newton, that individual, that position would be kind of move up into a community programs manager position, and then would manage the programming at all three community centers and manage the part-time staff, which we would have to increase the part-time staff. Right now, we have 3. We would probably feel we need about 5 to cover the programming, because they also cover rentals at Truett, and then any rentals at Newton on the weekends, in which we do have some of that. So that's kind of, as far as staff, that's what that increase would be. And then looking at the operations, you're looking at an additional $30,000 a year just for operations, for everything from alarm systems, internet, electricity, not counting the whatever the CAM fees would be.
Sure. Well, thank you, Director. Thank you, Director Boda. And then this one would be for administration. So what, and just knowing, where we are, we're now, we're in the thick of budget. So I guess, how are we going to subsidize, adding this potential $130,000, give or take, increase to the budget? What is our plan for?
FY '27.
Yes.
Right. So I'm not talking about this year. I'm talking about
Yeah.
so year over year. So after this year, we have to talk about this again next year. So how are we going to, speak to that?
I think what is being laid out here is if we decided to, in this model, to go at it alone, we have two successful models that are operating right now, Newton and the Truett Community Center. So we wanted just to have this full transparency of what it would cost if we did it. But we're not married to this. We understand that there's a lot of costs associated with it. So we just wanted to show. But through this whole process, let's put the cart before the horse. Let's go ahead and make sure that we have the funding in place to outfit the facility and make sure we have that. And then we can, over the coming weeks and months, decide how this is operationally held. I don't think we necessarily have to put hard numbers on paper and decide FY '27 budget at this time.
Yeah, I was just going to say, it's been my assumption that we would have a partner, full-on partner from the beginning, and that we wouldn't bring on additional staff, that we'd bring this existing staff for oversight and program organization, but to the extent that would make some sense down the road, we would have to look at it, but that was never my intention as a part of the model.
Sure. And I guess it leads me to and again, I want this to open up tomorrow, but just, so the 350, I guess, and if you did bring on a partner, they would work with you for the capital to raise that capital to be able to make the improvements. I'm wondering, should we have that as an LOI or reach out to a potential partner now so that it would mitigate having to fork out the 350 or potentially more once we get into the thick of it now? That's my only apprehension, only because I've talked to other cities who have done this and they're in the thick of it now where they even have partners and the city is liable for the building and for the capital, and it's gotten them into some hairy situations. And I just know that living through Truett, and I think we're still working through kind of the dealings with Truett Street. I just
And Newton.
I want to ask all the questions that I wish were asked before with the other ones.
Yeah, I would probably add, just for food for thought, depending if you go to a model like we have at Truett with the new building, that's an exclusive use. So we don't rent out any piece of that new building. The only thing we rent out is the gym. And so you could, if you had a partner who was running after-school programming, that's perfectly fine as well. But I think we should keep in mind, if we want something that's available to the community for people to rent, there is going to be staff that's going to need to manage that. Though it might not be a full, what we said, this is just an idea.
Sure. Yeah, of course.
Yeah, and I think, before we would spend the 350, we would have a full understanding of the full scope, purpose, partner, and then execute. I mean, I think Truett Street, for obvious reasons, did not go well. None of my doing. But I think we pulled it off at the end. But at the end of the day, it had its challenges, and it was a book on what not to do for sure.
No matter what you buy, what you purchase, it's going to be some kinks in it. You're going to find kinks in everything. So it's nothing but to work them out. I mean, I'm not saying that we should spend a phenomenal amount of money, and I know that we should have a plan. But we should also think about, you don't buy anything. You can buy a brand new car, and you have faults. You can buy a brand new home, and it's still faulty. So, I mean, we're looking at this, I'm looking at this as a savior for our community, for our district. That's what I'm looking for the whole entire city, for real, because the whole city will be accessing this at some point. So it just won't be for District 1, it'll be accessible for everybody. And I just believe that it shouldn't be, I don't think there'll be any problems. And then with Newton Street was kind of chaotic. It was, because things were going so fast. But it's together now. Newton Street is together now.
Yeah.
And hey, things happen. And we just need to be prepared for that, you know?
Did-
It's like we have water main breaks here in the city. You're never prepared for that at all. So I just want everybody to think on a positive note, for real. Be positive.
I just had, look, this is probably jumping far ahead, but can we please plan for accessibility in this? Because, you know, the one thing about Newton Street is it's not really accessible. It has a ramp and there is a first floor that people can access, but all the cool stuff is upstairs, and that's something that's really disappointing for me.
You expect from a 100-20-year-old house.
Yeah, exactly.
This is-
And trust me, as someone
Yeah.
has been trying to make a 100-year-old house accessible, I understand the struggle 100%.
The good news,
There's only one floor.
it's only one floor, and it's
Yeah.
got, and it's, I think it actually has. a
Well,
ramp.
it's not just that. It's,
Yeah.
it's like you're talking about putting a kitchen in, accessible kitchen equipment, things like that. If we can go into it with that mindset, we won't end up with another, you know, bathroom at Ann Street
Yeah.
kind of situation.
No,
And I
absolutely.
really, I don't want to have that conversation again.
Yeah, no, that is one of the items that is at the front of our minds.
Well, maybe if we can add some disability organizations, there's some really good ones around here. You've got, you know, Bay Area Center for Independent Living. You've got a lot of other disability organizations that I'm sure would love to get in and partner with this as well. So that, I think that would be, you know, something that we might want to look at, because I'm seeing the list and I'm not seeing anything that's really disability focused, and I think that would be nice to see.
I want to come back to some funding in regards to Newton and Truett. And it goes back into this 350. Looking at both of those, and from our prior experience, both of those costs were at least 3 or 4 times the amount that was originally budgeted. And we had to go back to the general fund on both of those projects several times to either bring them up to speed and because they were planned, like, kind of a little bit on the fast side, a lot of thought didn't go into it. And that's why I'm a little cautious with the money piece of it, because it's 350. I don't know if it's just 350, considering the size of that facility versus the sizes of the 2 smaller community centers. That may be a small amount compared to what is really needed. And then we're looking at coming back for that, and that there is no plan. We definitely need a community center. We definitely need to put this in place somehow. But I'm trying to wrap my brain around the money of it and how it's going to really, really work. Like, can you give me a number right now just for either one of the Truett and the Newton? I mean, I have a raw number in my head, but I want
Well,
to see what.
the truth of the matter is, Truett probably cost us twice what it should have. I mean, I looked at those numbers when I came into office, was embarrassed for the city that we paid that much.
How much?
That
Can you
said,
give me the number? Can you say the number?
I'm trying to explain where I'm coming up with. So, to your point, I think 350 represents, to me, the city's contribution to a paid-off asset once we acquire it, where we can meet a partner and say, hey, listen, we've put our piece in, we'd like to meet us halfway. Another 175, if we can raise that from the community, that would put us at 5.5, almost 600, thereabouts. You know, so to me, as I did the numbers, and it's a very clean building. It's clean. It's got a brand new roof. It's an easy renovation. So it's not going to be like Truett where you're adding on, you're building new. You got, you know, and we made mistakes. Plus, we overpaid, in my view. But that said, I think it's. I think it represents a solid number, which shows our contribution and our commitment, and hopefully we get the rest from a partner.
If I could add on the Truett piece, one of the issues with Truett was we were used, CDBG money came into
Yeah.
it, HUD money. So with that, you're required for the whole project to follow the Davis-Bacon wage rates, which essentially double what you pay people, and your procurement process is longer because anything that's over $2,000, you have to go through the RFP process, whereas normally we wouldn't do that till we hit 50,000. So that was one piece of we don't have any intention of using CDBG money because we can't, because there's a Brownsfield property within the footprint. So this has to come from either private money or our own public funds.
That makes sense.
Where else
And
can
I
we
guess-
cut in the CIP for this youth center? I think something else needs to drop out for us to feel secure in giving this 350 to the well-needed and well-deserved youth center. We've got to look at tightening it up.
I guess also if we could arrange, and I think some people have a scope, and I haven't seen the pictures here. If we could arrange for a visual for the other council members to go and see the site and just look at the outside and the inside, if we could arrange for that, that would be helpful as well. I don't know who that would be, with you or you all. If we could arrange for a visit for the other 3 council members to see this site, that would be helpful. Just so we can see the vision and see what you all are seeing and experiencing and feeling as well. That would be helpful.
All invited to the last one.
No.
No, I didn't get an
more.
email. I checked.
Oh, come on now.
No, I didn't.
No, we didn't.
It's
I didn't
not,
get
it's
any.
not in my email.
We'll make sure everyone gets
Please
it. And,
do.
Which I don't, and I think we talked about that last time. You weren't here, Councilwoman Jacks. I think it was with Wydack or someone, but I checked we
Yeah,
didn't get
we
it.
didn't
But
get 'em.
I don't need to harp on that. I'm just saying I would love to see it, and that's,
Yeah, we'll arrange that with the clerk's office.
okay. Yeah.
So I think this is a well-deserved and well-needed program, and I know we've been talking about this for a long time. I just, as far as the council goes, I want us to go back and revisit the CIP, and there's going to have to be some money dropped from somewhere. We can't have everything. And I think the priority is, and should be, the youth. So that's the priority, from how I understand it, and unless I'm wrong. And I think we need to go back here and look at where we're just going to have to drop some of this money that obligates us. I'd rather see, if we're going to fund the youth center, I'd rather see the full amount. If we go the full amount, it's my thought that we need to drop an equal amount somewhere else in the CIP. It's my thought.
Yeah.
Do we have a full scope, and not to jump around here, but with the exhibit and the facility improvements for the AZA, I'm trying to remember back to Tuesday or Wednesday, we have a full scope of work, and that is slated to be over the $500,000, correct?
Yeah, that's what I was going to mention is whenever you're trying to leverage bigger pots of money on capital projects, private partners, state grants want to see your commitment in a $350 for a community center, $500,000 for an education center. Both of those are serious commitments from the city that are the big bulk of the initial down payment of sorts. And then once we start to get farther into the process, we will know what the final number is and then be able to leverage that with community partnerships. So again, we are knowing that without the financial commitment on either of these projects, we won't go too far down a design path more than just a concept idea. But in both of these, we believe that the total all-in will be north of both of those numbers. This is what we feel is a very safe and comfortable contribution from the city at this point while we go and explore additional community partners, grant funding opportunities, or solicitations from the state.
Yeah, I think I'll compliment a little bit of what Andy's saying. We're putting in a healthy amount of capital for youth-based programs for which we already have built-in partners within the community that can meet us there. And I think that's just a smart play on our part. Allow them to play their part. Let us do our part. We all win. We can leverage more dollars other places to do other things with. It's kind of basic business, you know.
Okay. Council, any other questions specifically on the community center? No?
I just don't have a question. I want to make
I
sure
think
that.
we're gonna go to the other items. That's gonna be a part of everything else, but I want to make sure I don't
Is
want
the
to.
council, 100% of the council is for this?
I don't want
correct?
to.
Yes.
Okay.
Any other questions specifically to the HCDD team about the community center? No?
I
Thank
think
you.
it's fantastic.
But she is.
I just want to commend what you've done at Newton Street. It's in my district, and to take over an old home and turn it into this phenomenal community piece where everyone can go, I commend you on that. Very well done.
Thank you all for doing the work into this project, into the presentation. We know we asked you for more, and you did deliver on that.
Thank
You
you.
had the meeting with the potential partners I asked you to, and that was it. And we got some ground on that, and we gained some insight on what we have moving forward. So I appreciate that. I wasn't expecting you to move that quickly, but you scurried your feet, and I appreciate that. So
Thank you.
thank you all for doing the work on that, and let me know when I can go, look at that facility and other council members as well.
Will
Thank
do.
you.
Thank
Of
you.
course. Yes, thank you all.
You better not get this one.
Which one was it? Wasn't that one there, was it?
This is the adjustments. But I can't see it. You want my glasses on?
Please bear with us. We're trying to get the details on the screen there so we have a fully scoped conversation.
You all have a copy that I sent over this afternoon? Yeah, we're working on this. I can also maybe relocate over there and see if my computer works.
I was going to, yeah, thank you. Does everyone have all the documents that Mr. Kittredge sent earlier? Okay,
Yeah.
great.
Yeah. What are we working from first?
Is it this,
Just get,
the CIP general fund document? we're looking-
Everything that he sent updated copies of everything earlier.
I do 2 points.
I think I got them.
Yeah.
And then open the phone.
I should know.
Next time. Add that to the budget, right? All right, we have multiple tabs here for our council level adjustments. We've got the general fund, the water and sewer fund, parking fund, and marina fund. What we have populated on the screen, essentially line 2, is what was presented to you all in the mayor's budget, with the mayor use a surplus of $1.594 million. We have inserted a whole bunch of possible items, column D, and then we've started to populate those items based off of if they're revenue or expenditure, and then the delta. The council adjustments is the net adjustment based off of the information we have, and then the new target, over target. If that's a positive number, that means you're below the projected use of surplus of $1.6 million. If that becomes a negative number, you're over the target use of $1.6 million. So that's kind of the number right there, based off of everything that's been filled in. No additional revenue have been added to the budget based off of our conversation. Again, this is just a general fund. What you're looking at is a financial adjustment of the tipping fees. We noticed that we did not fund that 100% accurately. We were fortunate enough during our energy contract renewals, which we finalized last week, that we had a realized savings of $445,000 spread across these different funds. So the positive impact of that was $235,000. And then here are the rest of the adjustments that we have. The wellness program, the $2,500, a net increase of $500 for the funding for the committees. An item that was proposed in the mayor's budget for Zen City and Rept, we cut that in half just to fulfill our current contractual obligation through the rest of the calendar year. We've not put anything in for a third position in the clerk's office. The Downtown Ambassador Program has been funded for 20 hours per week for 52 weeks at a rate of $20 an hour. And then just as a placeholder, Councilwoman Jackson, you were not here, 2 evening playground program people for 20 hours per week times a 12-week program. I'm not sure if you're looking at what used to be at Lake Street and Dover-Dale in the evening, if you're thinking something different, but that's a number I can adjust pretty quickly. As we go further down, we had some adjustments to our CIP funding. As a placeholder, one of the decision points is if we're going to fund the 4 ambulances. The gross number is $2.56 million. That lease payment is $426,000. We have an existing lease payment for ambulances that come off on 2027. So there will be a net increase there of $237,000. Again, note, this ambulance does not need to be paid now. We would pay for it once we received it. So we're looking at an obligation, contractual obligation would happen now, but we would not realize these costs for at least, I think the running rate is about 3 years from now. So we'd be having this conversation as we are looking at a 2028 budget.
189, 427 drops off at the end of, that's
2027. Yep. So I think you'll see that a net increase of 237, I think, in FY28. I can get the exact numbers, but it's a couple years from now. Radios for the fire department, looking at bonding those along with the police department, 14,973 increase. PD, we're back and forth, so I don't have a number in there yet. Our original request was 525. We moved that up to 10 vehicles. We'll come back to that one. Sanitation truck, their original request was 475. We talked about a replacement with the slightly used sanitation truck. We dropped that number down to 350. That is the debt service for a lease there. I will highlight this number here. We currently, within all of our budget, in our mayor's budget, we presented a 1.5 step increase universally for all of our staff. Because we are in union negotiations still, that has not been agreed to by all 3 collective bargaining units. So there is still either a decision to move that number higher, which we would have to negotiate still, or end up in arbitration, which arbitration is scheduled currently in June 2nd and 3rd with the IAFF for the fire department. With all of those in, without putting in any of the police vehicles or any additional considerations for salaries, we still have what I'll call a favorable variance of $94,532. I want to pause there. I can move to the other funds, or we can have a discussion on the general fund.
Let's stay on the general. If we could tailor down the general. I know that we had a couple council members that had to leave early on Wednesday. Could you bring us back to speed on the conversation on the police vehicles? I'm not sure where each council member kind of left off there, so we can drill down on that line item.
Okay. Essentially a Ford Explorer costs about $75,000. That is a police patrol vehicle. There was a presentation done that if we wanted to have a take-home program for
I was here for that.
You were here for that?
for all of our people, that's 10 vehicles,
You were here.
and then that's the lease. So
What, so thoughts, and this is where we, in the mayor's proposed budget, you all, it was 5 vehicles, right, for 7
in the
years?
original
Seven-
CIP, it was 7
7 vehicles for 5 years, okay. And so I propose to increase that number to 10, that'd get us closer to, that's that 750, correct?
Correct, yep.
And that'd get us closer to the, they really asked for 17. That'd get us closer to everyone getting a take-home vehicle, because we have some folks leaving out. Again, you were here for the conversations, but just trying to round that back out. So I want to know what are council's thoughts, and just, if we could.
So right now, you're saying it looks like we have 7 in there. Is that correct?
Right now, there's nothing funded right now. This is a placeholder for 10 vehicles. That would be the debt recurring cost of $168,000 if you funded all the vehicles. So the cost per vehicle, just a real quick, it updates automatically, is about $16,847,000 per vehicle funded is what your lease payment would be. So if you're just trying to keep track of, if you choose not to do all 10 or to do none of them, just as a reminder, we chose to put none in there. That was a decision point by the mayor and I, that we would forego those expenditures this year.
You put none in?
We did not fund any. We funded 0 in the mayor's budget.
Mm-hmm.
But the original ask in the CIP was for 7 vehicles. Are we following me now?
Uh-huh. Gotcha.
We did other things for the police department. We didn't do the vehicles.
Correct.
Yeah, that's right.
Repeat that again, because I'm.
Sure. So in the request by the police department, which made it through the CIP, was 7 vehicles at $525,000. When we went through our budget and came to our number of the 1.594 million use surplus, it did not include any capital expenditures for police vehicles. So that was cut from our budget.
And did they know this going into union negotiations? Did they know that we weren't, that in the mayor's proposed budget, there were no vehicles funded? Did they have the potential to know that there were no vehicles funded in the mayor's proposed budget?
In union negotiations?
I'm trying to answer this in a way that you can answer it.
Right,
Did they have the inkling that they were going,
They aren't gonna get them.
right?
I think that they were hoping for both. Increases to salaries and take-home vehicles.
Right.
Knowing that we would have to make tough decisions at the end of the day. So the ask is still there. We chose salary increases over vehicles. So currently, there has not been a settlement arrived for the negotiations. So the people who are in the union, who are negotiating, know that no vehicles are funded right now,
Okay.
as of our conversations on Tuesday.
So the long or the short is, yes, they did not, or no, they didn't think that vehicles were being proposed in the, okay. I'm just wondering if that, if it played into where we are now, but that's neither here nor there.
I have a question about this. So how, wasn't the raise for all the employees across the board, not just the police department?
So typically, correct, that is and that includes all the departments, a universal 1.5 step increase. So it's technically a COLA and then a step increase. But
Okay, so that's for all the employees. So when you say the take-home cars, it was either the raise or the cars. The raise was for everybody, correct?
Yes.
So it's like how do you say that the cars would be extra when the raise is for everybody? The cars, they need the cars.
They want the cars.
But what makes you think they don't need them?
They drive in police vehicles right now. They want a take-home program where they want a car assigned to every individual, just like we want to have additional nicer, newer vehicles across the board. So that's the difficult part of the mayor and my decision, is to decide what our wants and what our needs and what we think. So
Well, I understand that too, but have we spoken to the police department?
speak to them all the time.
Yeah.
Talk to them all the time.
Yep.
So how do they feel?
They
Well,
want
they
the
all-
vehicles.
They want
So that was the conversation, Councilwoman Jackson, that I
But
had
we-
with
know.
some
we
of the
don't have
personnel-
enough
I
money.
understand you
So-
said,
So with the personnel committee, and that's why I proposed the 10, because they proposed 17, which would get them closer to the take-home, and there were none.
So-
We proposed 7, and I said we should try to get at least closer to that number.
Yeah, I think it's important to note, so in our CIP, for all of the CIP in the general fund, the request was $12,198,000. We cut $6.5 million from the CIP. So it's not that we just cut police vehicles for $500,000, we cut another $6 million on top of that. So there are more wants and there are more needs, so we just have to, that's the game we have to play and have to solve how to balance our budget.
and I understand that wholeheartedly, but I just, you know how I feel about the police and the fire department.
Yeah, and I think it's important. And they have police cars. They just want dedicated take-home police cars, which are, I understand that part too. But it goes back to the whole thing I said last year when we were doing budgets. It comes back to this lollipop kid. At some point, everyone wants to get everything they want. At some point, you got to make harsh,
Yeah, I understand.
difficult.
I-
So
I
that's
do
the issue.
understand.
This is
And-
more
and I
about retention.
really-
I'm a mother,
This is
I
about
understand.
retention.
We're tying this into retention, not just,
This is.
I think my
Yeah, but we've
concern,
actually gained people this year.
We
We're at
do
the
not
highest
have-
staffing level we've ever been at.
sorry for interrupting
I'm sorry.
everybody.
I'm sorry, Andy.
I think I was the one cutting people off. We do not have a final CBA negotiations and final contracts awarded. And in some of those situations, we are far off from where we can afford to be, in my opinion. I did not feel we had the luxury to add additional wants and needs into this budget without a firm contract. That has been a complication since we have entered into union negotiations, where we have to, if we are unable to come at an impasse, we will have to pay whatever is determined through an arbitration, and not knowing how big that number could be, we felt comfortable not funding vehicles at this time.
I understand.
I just think that, but the message I think that sends across, which I guess I was a little confused on the semantics. I think just the message that sends across, it just is not, it's just not a good message, it sends across, and, that out of the 17, and again, I know the ask is large, but I mean, we have 102 sworn officers.
Yep.
And so, and that there are cars that are half my age. There are, it's just when you stack all those together, and then we tell them, okay, we're not funding any of those vehicles, but then they look at this list of things that are funded. It just, it doesn't send quite across the message that I think we need to be sending across, which is why I said I know that this is something that hurts us, but it's either going to hurt this year or next year. And when it hurts, when we have 6 officers leaving, and then that number is growing by the month, we have to turn around this, in some way, and it's going to hurt the pocketbook either today or tomorrow. And I'd rather not hurt the citizens when they ask for help or when they need those things, because people are leaving to go to other jurisdictions. So
If I may do something real quick, so $750,000 is 10 vehicles, right? And I'm doing quick math in my head. If I cut this in half to 5 vehicles at $375 on average, it's $84,000. So if I added that in there as a cost, I can afford, based off of the energy savings that we saw,
Right.
I'm still above my target. So if you want, that's 5 vehicles right there. Still have room underneath the $1.6 million variation, because our cost will be $84,000. So it's not 10, it's not 0. It still does not handle the additional payroll.
Right.
But
And then, so just from I see you have the 2 items there, the West Side Community Center and the Neighborhood Infrastructure Reinvestment. Are those, does that,
those are fully funded right now. So
right
I'm
now
not
they're
putting-
fully funded? Okay. So let's say you bring that Neighborhood Infrastructure Reinvestment down slightly from that $1 million ask. And again, in the original CIP, I think it was $200,000 over 5 years, correct? The original CIP submitted to council.
Yeah, the original CIP was $200,000
For 5
over
years.
5 years, so we
$1
moved
million.
it up. Yep.
You moved up the million to next year.
Yep, just go ahead and,
Okay. So can you back it out and then add it in so I can see the savings and then the,
so right now it's about $85,000, so if I make it 0, it's all $1 million is about $85,000 hit to the budget.
okay, so make it 5 or 750 and then,
So if it's at 750, and I took out $250,000, that would, in a bond,
yeah,
it would be about $21,400 savings.
which would get you, 1, 2, that'd get you.
Get you another car.
Yep, 2 car, well, 2 cars, just about, right, because there were 16.9, right?
Let's do this a different way to make it a little easier.
I have a question too about the neighborhood infrastructure.
So the original request of 7, it's essentially break even.
I would like to consider taking the neighborhood infrastructure totally out, considering the fact that there's $12 million that we still don't have any direction on through grants, that we're not using for the bike and pedestrian lanes. And no one's heard about where they can be used, considering it's also an infrastructure money. That's $12 million versus $1 million or whatever he was going to put in this CIP. So where is that? How are we spending that pocket of money?
Andy's got more familiar with it.
Okay.
As I understand it, it's for new sidewalks, not a repair of existing sidewalks, and there's no street work in there.
So we have $12
and-
million of new sidewalks.
Well, Andy can kind of give you the benchmarks on it, but to a large degree, we've rethought a lot of what we were talking about doing relative to bikeways and such. None of the 16 or 15 streets we had, they had never been measured, so therefore, we would have had to have made them either one-way streets or eliminated all off-street parking.
Correct.
Or both.
Right.
So which we announced a while back. So a lot of that grant was related to that program, not to what we have, which is a deficit of actual infrastructure in the city.
But we were also told at that 12 million that you were going back to the state and asking them that we were going to recalibrate our program or thought and see if we could use the money for our streets. Has that happened at all?
Yeah, we have had discussions. There's 3 projects. There's bike infrastructure. There was the Carroll Street full plan, as originally proposed, and then there was infill of sidewalks and ADA ramps and crosswalks. What we found out is none of the money could be repurposed for maintenance or repair. It needed to be for new. So about 2/3 of that money was for sidewalk improvements and or signals and ADA infrastructure. Our match of that $12 million was roughly $2.3 million. Again, in a few weeks, I'm going to have that presentation for the Safe Streets with kind of an update of where we are. But our obligation of cash and capital was about $2.3 million, understanding that we have not actually funded that project yet with city dollars. That's
No, I'm sorry. Yeah, I want to try to move this. I'm going to try to get us to narrow in on the things. I want to hear council's thoughts on the PD vehicles, the infrastructure reinvestment, where that puts us over or under. I want us to start narrowing down on the actual figures, keeping in mind the negotiations and all those items.
I think with the police vehicles, your suggestion of going to 10 is moving farther along. But I also think that we have to fund some PD vehicles as a good faith, and also sending the message that the police department is important to the safety of all the taxpayers. If we can't do 17, obviously. We can't go to 10, but I think we have to at least fund some, and that would be determined what you were just talking about coming down.
And I think so, and this is where my suggestion of, and I know of repairing some of our roads and streets and everything, I know the ask was, the second ask was $1 million. First was $200,000 over 5 years to make the $1 million. My thought was, let's bring that $1 million to $750, fund a few more police vehicles. I don't think that gets us, the 525 is 7 vehicles, right? So
original request.
So that is at the original request of 7, and then that brings the neighborhood infrastructure down to 250. That still fully funds the West Side Community Center, and we're just under $2,000. We have $2,000 to play with.
$2,000 over.
Oh, over. We need to shave off.
I think you want to add something.
Yeah, a couple things. I think you misunderstood what I said. So the $1 million isn't even sufficient to catch up what we've got to catch up, number one. Number two, what I was saying was that we will increase our cash portion, the pay-go portion of by $200,000 a year to get us up to where we should be in year 3 or 4. So the $1 million was really a catch-up payment to try and get us caught up on where we had drained that budget down. And that's going to be, it'll be helpful, but it won't be aggressive in terms of, so to go with 250 beyond, I think that's a disaster.
It seems like, we're not fully funding the PD vehicles either at the 17, so we're behind there, and we're kind of bringing both of them at, trying to get them to the level that they need to be at. So I think we're doing both a service to level them both up.
What would it look like to fund the community center in stages, in phases? So much this year, so much next year. What would it be like to do that?
I don't think we need
considering? Wait a minute.
Okay.
Considering the fact that we're looking for partners for additional funding.
I just don't think we need to do that.
No, I don't think so either.
Something's got to give. We can't have everything.
No, we can't
So
have
let's-
everything. But if you're giving them, how many cards are you giving them?
Right now it's 7.
Okay, some's better than none. I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Because if we're in this kind of crunch, some is better than none. I would prefer giving them the 7 than not giving them anything.
I agree.
This is what we did. I want to gain. So what we had to do here is take the 250 from the neighborhood. I want to get the buy-in that you all are okay with it. If not, then we increase that back to the million. Then we're over by $252,000.
No, well,
Right?
you'll be over by $22,000.
I'm sorry. Yes,
Yeah.
I'm looking at the big number,
Debt
but
service, yeah.
yes, it's by the debt service because we're bonding out for that again.
And in there,
Hold on. I want to make sure I want to make sure we're pausing that we're getting this.
What's the proposal?
To just have the $250,000.
No, 750.
No. I'm talking about for neighborhood infrastructure.
It's 750, correct?
This is showing a subtraction of $250,000. So it's the millions in the budget right now, so we'd be
So it'd
taking
be
250 out. Yes, correct.
Yes. And because you're bonding out for it, it's less that $21,000 lease payment, correct? I'm trying to make sure that
I think so. I wasn't listening. Just sorry.
I want to make sure everyone's following along because we're talking about a lot and we're taking and moving.
So our lease payment, our bond payment for that, it says bond and lease on the side. Bond is a 15-year bond. Lease is either 5 or 7, depending on what we're funding. But our bond payment for 15 years would be $21,400. There's some assumptions in there. Let's just make sure we understand
I know.
interest rates are so variable, et cetera, et cetera. But it's a best estimate.
I do want the people who are most important to our city and our infrastructure and our people, our citizens. And I do believe that the Salisbury City PD and Salisbury Fire Department are some valuable assets to our community. So I know every year we give, but the vehicles, if you imagine how much they run, go. High-speed chases and some more, it takes a toll on your vehicles, so we do need something. I'm not even gonna say take-home vehicles, but they do need vehicles.
Placements, yes.
So are you all okay with dropping the neighborhood? Because how we got here is we had to take the 250 from the neighborhood infrastructure. The mayor proposed $1 million. We're dropping that to 750. And then this is coupled with the what is the $850,000 that it's already allocated for streets and roads, correct? Yes.
Yeah, there's another
$850,000
one,
plus plus the $75,000 concrete program. Or just $850, I guess we should just go with
Yeah.
it. So $850,000 is already allocated for street reconstruction, milling and pavement, plus this kind of catch up here.
If I may.
Sure. Make it hairier. Go ahead. Yes.
It's a $58 million budget. We're splitting hairs over $21,400, to decide with the mayor to be able to have the full $1 million as he originally requested. Our target of $1.6 million has been as high as $1.7 million. My recommendation, everybody's gotten a little bit of what they wanted. We cut $23,000 from our contracts right here. My recommendation is to zero this out, and we call it a day, and we're only over $25,000 of our target. And of a $58 million budget, I think that would be wonderful. Again, not talking about, I think that would be an amazing thing, and then we'll figure out what we're going to do with payroll later. So I would go
I agree.
I'd go like that, and then that's not a bad number.
That before, but
I can put it back real quick.
I was going to say that's just
Andy's deciding that.
I was
But
gonna say, that's the suggestion that
I like it.
that council we didn't.
yeah, right, that's just me talking. And again, I'm gonna stop now.
Yeah, I was just going to say, to Andy's point, we cut the infrastructure development by $250. We're talking about $16,000 a year in annual debt service. $250,000 in that incremental benefit of fixing people's streets, lights, curb, on and on, is a big bump, and long overdue, in my view. Next year, we won't have this deficit. We can roll forward with another couple $100,000 just from the pay-go.
Knock on wood, please, Mayor.
well, we have, we do have the
okay.
streets.
We won't have that burden, so we can attribute more to cars and one thing and another. I'm just saying, as I've heard over the stories over the last year, I mean, we got problems out there we got to fix, we got to catch up. So that's my view.
Well, and we do have things in here in the general capital projects. We do have the surface maintenance,
Yep.
no, excuse me, the concrete program, curb guttering sidewalk. We have street reconstruction, 850. I mean, we do have other money besides the neighborhood
Yeah, what I'm saying,
structure program.
it's
No,
850
I get
now.
what you're saying. I hear what
But
you're
it
saying.
was $1.7 million at one point. We rolled it back to the point now where we're behind. That's the challenge. So if we can get a little bit of a jump on it, then we can be at 200 more next year for $1.5 million, or maybe $1.1 million, whatever. Then we can keep going, but we can't do it all at one time.
And I just want to make sure, I'm sorry, I meant to ask this before, and this does not include, the CIP, what everything is, North Prong doesn't get any allocation this year, correct? Or am I looking at the wrong?
North Prong did not receive additional
Okay.
funding this year.
Councilwoman Jackson, I know this is a biggie for
No,
you,
hold
so
on.
I want to make sure.
And why not?
No, we're going to clean up the site right now with our that's been rolled out in the newspaper. We've already done a press release on that. We're going to clean up the site.
Yeah, I meant to ask that on Wednesday, but you weren't hearing that. But yeah, I want to make sure that you knew that, because I know that was a
Yeah,
biggie for you
sure.
last year.
We were
North
we were
Prong.
able to repurpose a $500,000 grant from a different
Right.
location over there so we did not need additional funding for acquisition because we were able to move $500,000 over there. So that's why that's not funded.
So in 20,
EA has allowed you all to go in and,
so in 25, we should acquire the next location and have prepped everything else beyond that.
Okay.
And that's going to be a big improvement over what
Okay.
we've been. Yeah.
Okay.
Not forgetting about North Prong.
yeah, that's right.
So next year, this number will be bigger of the proposal then, because we're not funding this portion here, because we're still not acquiring any other new properties with this proposal, correct?
Well, no, I'm sorry.
No, we would love to hear from you. You can-
Yeah, of the properties that are available right now and the money that we've been able to repurpose through
Yeah.
another DNR grant, all the property that's available, we were able to use funding to buy what is available right now. There's different pots of grant funding that comes for remediation of the site, and then we're not to the development of the construction yet, but,
Okay.
yep.
Thank you.
Next tab. Mr. Kittrell, next tab.
Hey, when I turn tabs, it is clocked in. All right.
Yeah, well, no, is everyone?
So that is, we're keeping in the cut for right now, is what you're saying.
Oh, well, no, well, okay. Well,
Okay, we don't have to. I just,
what's just knowing that we'll be just about $24,000 over the targeted use of surplus of 1.6, correct? Well, 1.59.
correct.
We shouldn't be over, I mean, I feel like we need to, I don't know.
I'm trying not to pull out a surplus because I have a feeling we're going to need it later.
Yeah, I don't want to pull out a surplus. I want to cut it down. I mean, either we do the community center, we do it all the way, and then if we're going to do that and we're committed to that, then something's got to give.
Let me ask a question if the CB, so can you go to, yeah, you're already there, the CB negotiations tab. If that number goes any higher than 690, 246, we will be using surplus to make that right, correct?
Correct.
So potentially we'll be going over, so can you just?
Yep.
Yep, so. Go.
So,
That's whether we approve, well, that's whether whatever we do now or not.
That's the great unknown.
this is, yes, so wherever we land, this is general fund implications. If we have to go up a full step, it'll hit the budget $690,000. If we go up half a step, it's $345,000. I can tell you right now where we land with all the unions, it is well beyond the $690,000 if we had to fund what their last requests were. It's closer to like $1.7 million.
And so you're fairly confident in saying that can you go back to the other tab, please? You're fairly confident saying that either way you spin it, we're going to be
We're going to be over the 1.6
Okay.
unless you go back here and you say like, this is all the things we wanted to do, but we're not sure. So let's start scaling back. And that's where we had landed with our decision, knowing that that was still a question mark, we decided to not do with these additional things. But that was our choice. You get the tough decision.
Yeah, right, yeah. Council, knowing that now the decision of backing out which again, I don't want to, small potatoes here, but can you just back out of the minus net 250? Yeah. So either here or there, and then this is with scrolling down the 690, that going to any number above that is going to put us over target anyway, which is likely going to end up.
Yeah, if anything above the 1.5 steps right now, which there's 2 paths forward, and can't get into too much strategy. Strategy is either we come up with a compromise with each union individually or collectively that moves us above the 1.5 steps, or we could end up in arbitration with all 3 organizations. Right now, we are scheduled for arbitration with the fire department.
Okay. Council, do we have some consent to move from this slide? Are we?
So we went ahead and took out the neighborhood infrastructure
This is where
reinvestment.
We took out the reduction, is what it's showing right now.
it is fully funded right now. Without it being fully funded, we are over target by $2,000. With it being funded, we're over target by $23,000.
We can't have everything. We got to make decisions, and that's just the bottom line. Somebody's not going to be happy. There's nothing we can do about it. I mean, you want a decent budget. Something's got to go. It's my thought. There's other people here.
My concern is the outcome of the negotiations.
Yes.
My concern is the outcome of the negotiations and what that's going to mean for the bottom line. And I don't want us to be already underwater if that hits us for more than what we had offered. So I just...
Did you take out on here, is that extra position in the clerk's office out?
It's out.
Oh, it is? Okay. I'm just
That's
making
out.
sure.
Negotiations are June 2nd, right? And
The latest for one of those,
that's 2 days, correct?
yes.
And we have to submit our budget by June 15th, correct? There were some public
Yeah, otherwise,
hearings
if you're contractually obligated to pay something else, we just have to take it out. We have to do something different later on. We'd have to adjust the budget after it was adopted with a separate budget amendment. Just as, clarity, last year, the 1.6 number is a number that we choose, is a number that we feel is comfortable. Again, this number has been as little as 1.3. It's been as much as $2.1 million, depending on how much we want to use. So, again, target of 1.6 is a good target, but last year it started at 1.7. So that would put us in the positive. So I wouldn't necessarily get hung up. I mean, I would not get hung up over the $24,000 directly. That is pretty good for $58 million.
Let's go to the next tab.
Okay, so water and sewer, same conversation. We had a balanced budget of this is a use of surplus of $1.1 million. We felt pretty good there. We did have a favorable energy contract that saved us $202,000. So right now we're to the positive $203,000. There was a couple items in the CIP that we did not fund this year. We still have not added those in. And then here is what will happen from rate increases or decreases, just as additional revenue or reductions for a conversation.
Yeah, and one thing I'd like to add on the water and sewer account is, and again, Sandy can chime in, but our cash position has eroded there quite a bit, and now that we're now that we're incrementally going on our debt at a Herculean rate, we want to should going fast to try and keep up with the PFAS. We need to take a little bit different position than we had in the past. Am I right on that one, Sandy? So while we have a surplus there, I think we probably should be carrying one for a while until we get a better cash position, just for, so, that's my view.
Did want to also note, if we did move off, that's the cost of a one-step increase in the water and sewer.
This is just barring with the conversations with the health insurance that we are meeting that 9, it could be double that number.
Correct. And that's on both, that hits both accounts.
Can you scroll up again? And this is, what's the rate increase?
The rate increase right now is proposed at 6%.
What is, okay, can you, your math of the 142?
Huh?
So that's an additional $142,000 just in fiscal year?
So if for every
Yeah.
1% that I increase it.
Okay.
Yep.
So I'm trying to follow the math.
No, this is just possible. So if I could say, like, let's go up to 2%, and then I would just populate that over and add another 142 to revenue.
Oh, I see.
If you wanted to decrease it, you could also decrease it by 140 or a 0.5%. There's a lot of different ways. It's kind of a multiplier. And the urban service is, if you want any information on that, I can talk about that.
Scroll down for me, please, with the energy contract. Okay. So that saved us 202. And that's the same figure from the general fund, correct?
It's approximately, it's not 50/50 exactly, it's 235 here. It's based off of the percentage of the overall energy contract at the 445. So that's the overall. So it's 202 is how it would hit this number. And again, one of the reasons why you see this at your level is those contract negotiations were done on Tuesday. We had already submitted our budget, so it's a favorable variance.
Council, your thoughts on everything here? I know that, I mean, really it's the rate increase and your thoughts? I know we asked about the urban service district, but that needs to, the county has some input on that, and because that number, that 1.5 has stuck for quite some time, correct?
If we wanted to increase it to a 2x, we'd have to get agreement from the county.
From the county? Okay.
So we're over target on that?
Yes, by 203, correct?
Favorable variance,
Favorable,
correct. But again, this is also saying that we have a projected use of surplus of $1.1 million. Doubling down on what the mayor said, we've been historically not borrowing in the water and sewer fund, and this will be the second year in a row where we are bonding money. We typically are able to pay for everything with cash, but because of our large-scale infrastructure projects surrounding our paleo and park plants, we've had to start borrowing money for to fund those multi-million-dollar projects.
That is equipment shed. Is that the one we were talking about before, early on? Because I'm like, what is this equipment shed for? I mean, I know it's for equipment, but what kind of equipment?
Is that her she shed? No. Just kidding. I was kidding.
So,
Okay.
Corey can talk about that. That's why I made her sit through this.
Or, okay.
Corey, she's whispering in the back.
And equipment storage, like the large equipment, trucks, pumps, motors, things like that. We don't have enough space for them, they're just sitting outside. So
Okay.
It's not a huge shed, but it's big enough to get some of our equipment.
Okay.
It is.
Doesn't that prevent more wear and tear on your equipment that's been outside? Yeah.
Weather beaten.
Right.
Okay.
It's a little bigger than a she shed, I gotcha.
A lot bigger than a she shed.
Okay. Council, any other comments on the water and sewer allocations here?
No.
We have some consent to move forward with this tab?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay.
We don't really spend a lot of time talking about the parking fund. Mayor did not, budget did not have to use surplus because there was a favorable variance of revenue over expenditures of $107,000 over, $103,000 over budget. There's the essential energy contract. It's only about 1%. So with no adjustments, we are $107,000 to the good. Again, note, for several years in a row, the parking fund was borrowing from the general fund, so this money would essentially be paying back the general fund. This is where I'll let Sandy jump in. Do you have anything to add to that?
No, I don't have a number right off my head, but I know that we put 125 back in this year, and then I believe maybe 540, maybe what's due from the parking fund, 540,000 from prior years.
And structurally, we don't need to look at any other improvements, or, how is the structure aging and repairs? I know that we are over the expected shelf life of this, of the garage, our existing garage. I know that, is that a conversation we need to start having, or?
Without any additional significant capital infrastructure additions, this is a pretty healthy budget.
Okay.
We have funded any of the large-scale capital needs of the existing parking garage recently. That's what you've been seeing in the construction. So I think we're doing okay with our existing infrastructure.
Council, any questions on the parking fund?
No.
We have consent to move forward with this tab?
Yes.
Okay.
Marina is just upside down.
Yep.
And this is a bigger conversation at another date. We saved $2,300.
Wonderful. That's our $2,000 from the first.
So it is kind of is what it is. But understanding that this is a general fund, this is an enterprise fund that's supposed to be self-sustaining. You should be able to balance your budget off your revenues. At some point, we need to have a real conversation if this continues to be a enterprise fund, or otherwise it would be absorbed as a general obligation to the general fund, an obligation to the general fund, which means the costs, this would all be absorbed just into the general fund, and rather, because right now it's just, it loses money, it borrows from the general fund, et cetera. So this is supposed to be a break even. There's also large-scale capital that will be needed in the next 5 to 10 years there. We also have an outstanding relationship potentially with, we have an LDA currently with the proprietors for the Marina Landing that if that project came to fruition, they would take over the daily operations of the marina. So a lot is still kind of in no man's land there. But right now, not much to talk about on this account.
Council, any questions on this tab?
No.
Consensus to move forward from this one? Good, okay.
That's all for the tabs that we needed to discuss.
Okay. Shall we move forward with the fee schedule? Unless anyone has any other further questions on the items.
Yeah, so I think you all have the fee schedule. Here it is. If there's anything you want to talk about, understanding any adjustments to the fee schedule will have an impact to the actual realized revenues that we are projecting in our accounts.
I had a couple questions.
Just highlight some of the changes that were struck through. I see the first changes on, or first scheduled changes on page 3 of the fee schedule. And council, it is up on the screen too if you need it there.
Okay, if you want to kind of direct me where you'd like to look.
With our landlord licensing rental registration, I see 2 strike-throughs there. I know we talked about it during budget. We're going to save the conversation for now during the fee schedule. If you all can scroll down just a hair, just a smidge more. There we are. Those 2 we can talk about the thoughts on 1, 2, and then those 3 items there. There's some significant jumps. I believe your staff from HCDD have
Snuck away.
gone for the day. Yes.
When we had originally created the short-term rental unit, the plan was to stand up a separate program that was going to be more of a, for essentially Airbnbs. And that was the fee that we felt more comfortable with. We have put those more in line with the same rates that are the same as the rental. So we've now, instead of them being a separate, more expensive rate, we will treat them the same as we treat these right here. So a rental unit registration renewal will be the same as a short-term rental unit renewal. So we just put those in line, the 175 and the 140, instead of it being a significantly higher. So just matched them up with the rest of our rental units.
Did we I remember, and I'm trying to think back, this was some months ago, quite a few months ago, that when we were discussing some of the legislation and the details around the short-term rentals, that there were a lot of comments and some suggestions from the public. Did we do some input from folks, some surveys or et cetera? I just know that, I'm trying to jog my memory, that there were some discussion points. We had a couple people from the public I was reached out to. I think a couple other council members were as well. And so just since this was a topic of concern, did we reach out? Did we?
We did. Yeah, I think their concerns were if we were going to, not necessarily the fee, but more of how we regulated and controlled them. So we moved those regulatory things closer to any rental unit. So we relaxed on some of those, and that was what was adopted. We did take their feedback and made final adjustments. I don't have that legislation in front of me, but yeah, that's kind of where we are on that.
No, thank you for that.
Where can I go next?
Those were the two questions that I had. Council, any other questions on some of the items that were changed?
Just for the people who are listening, I'm not drilling down on it, but what is included in the mayor's budget is a trash fee increase from $73 to $77. We've baked in that number. And that number increase was to help cover the increase in tipping fees from this past year that were not realized when we built our budget last year. There were mid-year increases, so we increased our fees this year to cover the cost of those tipping fee increases. Please note that there is an additional fee increase that is being proposed by the county right now. We did not include those expenditures because it's not been adopted yet, but that could. Those increases would be taking the proposal is right now it's $78 per ton for us to tip. The proposal is to move that to $88 per ton July 1st and then $100 in January. That increase, I believe, would move us about another $240,000 in added expenditures to our budget. So that is something that if that does get approved or passed, we would need to have another conversation on how we would afford that expenditure, whether it's a budget amendment, use of surplus, or an adjustment to our fee schedule. So,
Thank you for underscoring that again. I know we talked about that in day one of budget, but thank you for highlighting that again. And Council, you were sent the figures from some of the staff at the Waterworks Department. Any other questions on some of the items that are some of the changes proposed in the fee schedule? No? We have consent to move forward?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Any other items, Mr. Kitzrow, of note, or any other?
nothing for budget, just we have fee schedule that we just went over. There's no increases to any sort of, our tax structure, so that will be coming forward. Our plan, if we're tracking, is May 12th would be the first reading of the budget. So we'll finalize our documentation this week based off of these conversations and then submit it for first reading on the 12th. Is that correct?
Thank you. Council, any other final comments, questions, concerns?
None.
No? Thank you, Mr. Kitzrow. Thank you to your team. Thank you, Ms. Green.
Thank
as
you.
well for your help.
Thank you.
And with that being said, the time is now 7:06, and the special budget work session is now adjourned.